Welcome to the Radical Responsibility Revolution podcast. This is where we are transforming lives, inspiring you to reclaim your health, your wealth, and the power of your mind. Here we share actionable insights, inviting you to turn inwards and design your life of purpose and abundance. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Radical Responsibility Revolution, where we stop blaming the system, the government, the market, Mercury in retrograde, and start owning our own damn lives, quite literally, this week. So today we're talking about owning something real, a home. Oh my goodness gracious. This is my favorite topic, honestly. Owning a patch of dirt, a piece of earth that's actually yours. So, what's happened this week is the president floated an idea for a 50-year mortgage, and I thought it was brilliant. And guess what? The internet went apoplectic. It did what it always does, it lost its mind. So people are out there acting like this is the end of civilization as we know it, clutching their pearls and crying, 50 years? You'll die before you pay it off. Well, okay, so here I am over here in reality thinking, honey, no one keeps a house for 50 years anyways. Well, some people do. My mom did. But the average person, here's a stat for y'all. The average person stays in their home with whatever version of a mortgage they get for about 7 years. That's the average. So 30-year, 20-year, 15-year loan, 7 years is the average that people stays. Boom, 7. Now, that's not a mortgage. That's a long Airbnb, honestly. So we have to get back into what's really actually happening. So I want to unpack this a little bit for you because beneath the memes and the noise is a real conversation about abundance, about agency, and the soul of the American dream, because that's really what's at stake here. So we're going to let the fear and the facts just come together right now. I want to start with the obvious: fear. This is the thing about fear, is it keeps you from doing those things that create the life of your dreams. And people fear what they don't understand. So I want to break it down for you a little bit. Somebody hears, this is why they're going apoplectic, I guess. They hear 50 years and immediately picture themselves in a rocking chair, still writing checks to Wells Fargo. Well, as I said, that's not how it works. Most people don't even get to that 30-year mark anyways. But that's not how mortgages work in real life. The term of the loan is not the length of your sentence. I want to say that again. The term of your loan is not the length of your sentence. And the part about this is I think nobody got apoplectic when they started giving terms of car loans. I think they're up to 8 years or something. They used to be only the max was 3. So the problem is that we do this finance thing. And frankly, the length doesn't matter. What you should be paying attention is how much interest you're going to pay over that period of time. It's a different conversation. Most people sell, refinance, or rent their homes long before they hit year 10. That's just the way of the world. And we don't stay in houses that long. I mean, that's crazy. So why extend it to 50 years? Because it's an affordability issue. Everybody's screaming about affordability. Well, here's an affordability hack. It lowers the payment when you make it longer. That's why car loans went from 3 to 5 to some crazy, I think 72 now. Months, that is. It gives people entry into the game. And if you've ever been denied a loan because you didn't qualify because of $100 a month, you know what that little shift can mean. It's the difference between renting your life away or building a legacy of wealth. A 50-year mortgage doesn't chain you to debt. It opens a door to home ownership. So I want to begin to debunk this idea of unaffordability, this myth that's going on out there, because it really is This is the new buzzword. And I understand that people are in pain because they feel like prices are high or this is too high or whatever version of that is. People complain. I always say, you wouldn't be happy if I hung you with a new rope. So let's just get one thing straight. People bitch and moan about a lot of things. So let's talk about this word that everybody's throwing around, affordability. The media keeps screaming that young people can't afford homes. Well, okay, let's be honest. Some of them aren't trying to buy homes. They're trying to buy forever HDTV dream kitchens, quartz counters, 4 bedrooms, and a pool. Okay, people, that is not a starter home. And I don't care what the median income is that everybody keeps talking about. That is not a starter home. That's a Pinterest board. Here is the way the world has worked, and it will continue to work that way if people start to pay attention. Your very first house is supposed to be the starter home and humble so that you can get into it. Maybe it's got wallpaper older than you. Maybe the carpet has opinions. Maybe that's the point. It's your beginning. The median home price is around $450,000. This is what the stats are. So median doesn't mean average, it's just the middle of the road. But that number is wildly skewed by California and New York. So this whole thing about people they deserve to live in one of those cities that are very expensive, that's just, let's call it BS. You don't need to buy in Malibu or New York City to start your wealth journey. I just want to shout that from the rooftops. You don't need to buy in Malibu or New York City to start your wealth journey, to have your first home. Let's be real. My parents, I didn't, all of the people that I've grown up around did not do it that way. You have a starter home. And there are still, to this moment, incredible markets where homes are half that price. So listen, if you can't buy where you live because you live in one of those areas, buy something somewhere else. I say it again. Buy something somewhere else. You can rent it out, build leverage if that's your process. I believe you should start out with your first home. That's my my philosophy about building wealth. But every homeowner I know who plays the long game ends up ahead. Always, 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 always. Now, I do want to talk about one of the real villains in this story, and that's property taxes and insurance, because it isn't just the mortgage payment itself that's hurting people. There is real pain in those things, not in just the interest rates. The interest rates are very normal for the past 100 years. This real pain lies in these taxes and insurance. So let's talk numbers for a second. The average mortgage rate over the past 100 years has hovered right around 6%, which is where we are right now. That's not high. That's normal. But here's the thing, people have gotten so spoiled during the unicorn years after the pandemic, during the pandemic, of 2 and 3%. And now they act like 6% is a flippin' act of war. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, property taxes and insurance costs have skyrocketed 30 or more percent. Now, why is that? Well, because when the house values themselves, during COVID, it was a nutty time. I call them the unicorn years because we've never seen anything like that. And pray we never see it again. Because you had the perfect storm, and I have lots of videos about that. The prices of houses themselves went up 30% in those few years. Well, when you have a valuation of a property, because that's what that is, not just the price, the value goes up 30%. Guess what else goes up 30%? Taxes and insurance. So those unicorn year price jumps, they never went back down. So the values, just like this inflation that we lived through in the past few years, everything went up. That, and really the real estate market caused a lot of that inflation besides the just money pouring out of the US government. And that is what's killing affordability, not the loan term, not the interest rate, taxes and insurance. So instead of yelling about interest rates, we should be demanding tax reform. And on my bucket list right now is I'm deciding whether I want to move to Tennessee or to Florida. And Florida came out today with a statement that Ron DeSantis is thinking of or proposing no property taxes for homeowners, for owner occupied properties in Florida. I'm like, okay, I'm in, I'm sold. Where's my U-Haul? Because that's really what's happening here. It's got to go away. We need reform. Because think about it. Now, all these municipalities are getting more taxes. And if they haven't reformed their taxes in your state, which we did in Texas, they're getting paid whammy dollars on the valuations of these properties. And who's the big loser? The consumer. So I want to give you a little bit of an economic reality check. Let's zoom in because wages are actually rising. We have two trajectories, right? We have prices and we have wages. But when they are going at opposite directions, then it starts to feel like this really bad crunch. The wages are rising because of the policies that are being implemented right now. And the prices are slowly but surely coming down. Of course, there's just one big whammy every other day about, say, for instance, beef, why things are going up. Droughts affect things, chickens with chicken flu or whatever it was. The problem is that we need to begin to understand that wages are rising slowly, but they are. And the data comes before you actually feel it. So it's happening. And if you're watching the market, you would know that. But unfortunately, you're still having PTSD from all of these prices for the past couple of years. So I'm going to say that something is afoot as well, that AI and automation are now starting to have their influence on what's happening, and it's reshaping the workforce. So I don't know if you're paying attention, but there was 15,000 people laid off at Amazon in the last couple of weeks, about 30,000 at UPS, which UPS was directly related to Amazon. And those people are being replaced by, and they are middle management, AI. And I've said this before, AI is coming for a job near you. So if you think that going to college was a good idea, think again. Because that's why I'm shouting this from the rooftops that owning an appreciating asset like real estate is more vital than ever. This allows you to build generational wealth, and jobs change. They do. And currency values, markets crash. But land has always been there. It always endures. Even in 2008, when we had that crazy crash, which was predicated not by the mortgage people, well, they had a hand in it, but it was Wall Street. You always came out on the good end because if you held on to it, it came back. Real estate always goes like this. It just always does. It may have a blip here, but it's going to keep going. And you can't automate land. So AI is not coming for your land. You can't outsource a roof over your head to China. This is here. This is the mother lode. And that's why I keep saying buy dirt. It's not just a cute little country song. It's ancient wisdom. People came for that very thing. If you know anything about history and why land homes matter, from the moment humans could walk upright, we've sought shelter. And a home isn't just a roof, it's identity, it's stability, it's safety, it's sovereignty, it's independence, it's freedom. And people crossed oceans and prairies. Oh my gosh, in a covered wagon across the United States, people died for the right to claim a piece of ground and say, this is mine. It's not greed, it's grounding, it's dignity. So when I hear people say, I'll rent forever, I want to lovingly shake them because renting forever is not freedom. I want to say that again. Renting forever is not freedom. That's indentured servitude. It's funding someone else's dream. Why do you want to not fund your own dream? Every rent check you write is a tiny mortgage payment for your landlord's retirement. Get that really downloaded into your body, right? Every rent check you write is a tiny mortgage payment for your landlord's retirement. And if you really want to be someone else's retirement account, just keep renting. You are either paying your own future or you're paying someone else's. It's your choice. And so my question is, are you going to choose wisely? So I have my own story about homeownership, which some of you have read my book. If not, please get the book, Your Inner Billionaire. I know I talk about my tax lien years and get real and vulnerable for a minute. I couldn't buy a home until I was 47 years old. Now, the thing about that is that the average age of a home purchaser now is almost 40. And it's increasing because of a number of different reasons, which I'll go into a couple of them more in here in a second. But it wasn't because I didn't understand the market. It wasn't because I didn't have the money to have a down payment. It doesn't mean I couldn't afford the mortgage payment. I was in the market. I was doing loans for people. And I always said, anybody that came in my office, anybody can get a loan. It just depends on how much you're willing to put down. And then it could be a lot based on how terrible your credit score is. But as much as I helped others buy, I couldn't buy a house. Why? I had an IRS tax lien that blocked me for years. If you've read my book, you understand that I had a tax lien of almost a $500,000. And the reason was because when I was in my 20s, I refused to hand more money to a government that was a terrible steward of it. I was very principled until the government said, oh, here's a big old tax lien. You won't file tax returns. We will file them for you. And on top of that, we're going to charge you penalties and interest. And the irony of that, it cost me my shot at home ownership for a while. That was my dream for years, was to own my own home, and I couldn't. And it was only by my own choices. And very few people fall into that category of having a $500,000 tax lien. You can buy a house with a tax lien, but there's a couple of things you have to do. And buying a $200,000 house with a $500,000 tax lien is not usually credit worthy. And I finally took care of that. It's in the book. And when I finally bought my first house, it wasn't just a financial win, it was a spiritual one. And I remember standing in that first home, knowing that it was mine, no landlord, no lien, no permission slip, and it changed me. It restored my sense of agency. And that's what I want for every person listening to this podcast right now. So there is an abundance perspective that I have on everything, and that is there is this energetic philosophy that goes with it, because this is the radical responsibility revolution. And we don't just deal in dollars, we deal in frequency. Home ownership is an act of claiming space physically, emotionally, and energetically. And it says, I belong here. It grounds your abundance frequency. So it's why I always say, you don't build wealth in your mind, you build it in your body and your land. So the 50-year mortgage idea isn't a trap. It is a very unique tool, which I think is fabulous, to use it to step into ownership sooner, to start compounding stability and equity. Because abundance doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It grows where you plant it. So here's where I want to have some real talk with this younger generation. To my Gen Z and millennial listeners, I love you, but I've got to call you in. Stop waiting for perfection.
Stop comparing your start to someone else's middle. If you can pay $2,000 a month in rent, you can own something. If you can DoorDash, you can house hack. And I say this with love. There's no such thing as too broke to buy. There's no such thing as too broke to buy. And I say this because I have helped more young people buy their first home that looked like they couldn't. But you know what? They did what they needed to do to make it happen. They went to any lengths, as we say in 12-step programs. There's only too afraid to try. That is what's going to stop you. And fear is expensive, my love. It compounds faster than interest. So please don't rent your life away waiting for the system to fix itself. Step in, step up, learn, and build. Because the legacy and the generational wealth that you are building is unlike anything else. This is what it all comes down to: legacy. When you own property, I know you all probably have grandparents that have these houses that you may inherit it someday, but they had this legacy that they could pass on. And when you own property, you own leverage. You can borrow against it. You can build on it. You can gift it. You can leave it behind. That's how generational wealth starts. One bold, imperfect purchase at a time. Every single person listening has the power to start that lineage right here, right now. Whether it's a tiny home, a duplex, or an acre of Texas dirt. Stop thinking short term. Think 100 years ahead, not even 50. Someone's going to live in that home. It might as well be you, your family, and your future. So here's your radical responsibility homework for the week. Vision about it. Go look at homes. Run the numbers. Get the information. Dream bigger. And then take the first doable step. Because radical responsibility isn't about blame. It's about owning your life. It's about owning your home. It's about owning your actions. And it starts quite literally with owning something that's yours. Buy dirt. I can sing, but I won't. Build wealth. Create stability. That's how revolutions start. One front porch at a time. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend. Shout it to the roofs that generational wealth begins with home ownership. It truly, truly does. It is the dignity, it is the agency, it is the freedom that we all say we desire. Queen of Magic out.